See Beneath Your Beautiful podcast is raw and intimate, sometimes funny, and always entertaining. With new episodes every Saturday, Hara explores our loves, fears, and hopes with a delicious combination of depth and lightness.
Kristi Cunningham, last 2 years have been very interesting for me. I haven't done work in the traditional sense. The last job that I left, my mom was diagnosed with cancer shortly after that. And it was a very aggressive cancer and focused on getting her through treatment. Of course, at the same time, Ken had gotten injured at work, had knee surgery, developed 3 blood clots in his lungs. So we got through that and we got through chemo and radiation and then moved mom in with us. It's interesting living with your parent again, and especially where you're kind of in a role where it's switched and you're the parent and the caregiver. Rewarding in a lot of ways, challenging in many.
How is she?
She's great. I mean, the cancer was very, very aggressive, but as her doctors put it, she responded to chemo and radiation the way they want people to respond in a textbook scenario. And
Awesome.
she did, and for as old as she is and everything, she really handled it like a champ. I mean, I can't say enough how proud I am of her because it was aggressive and the treatment was really aggressive, but she just looked at everything in such a positive way. And through the doctors and the nurses and everything, they really felt that her positive outlook really helped her.
Yeah.
She didn't look at chemo like I'm putting poison in my body to kill something worse than the poison I'm taking. It was always complete trust in her doctors and nurses that they were going to take care of her and that they were going to come up with something that saved her. She never complained, not once. Granted, we delivered her to chemo like a pizza. We got her there, bell to bell, sat with her. But for someone who's confined to a wheelchair and 78 years old, she kicked cancer's ass. Yesterday, I hurt my hip and part of my back, and I was limping around here and just whining and this and that. And then when I turned around and compared that to what I've just gone through personally, it's like, really? Because when I was going through that very serious illness, I was very quiet, very quiet. I didn't complain, I think, because there was times I was just afraid to open my mouth.
So tell me about your serious illness.
So, for years I've had issues with my stomach, and I've gone to the doctor all kinds of times. And the long and short of it was it got horribly misdiagnosed, and I ended up having severe diverticulitis. And to the point they were saying, you've probably had this for 2 decades. All these problems that you had, me getting my hysterectomy and everything else, they said was probably this all along, and just kept getting misdiagnosed.
Oh, wow.
So by the time we found out, it was bad, really bad. For the 2 months prior, it had gotten to the point where I could maybe eat 3 bites of food at a time. And that was just it. And being in the restroom 25 to 30 times a day, where mostly it was just kind of pain. I knew something was going on, but it got really bad. And Ken took me to the emergency room and they took a CT scan and they're like, oh, wow, you have diverticulitis. I'm like, okay. And they said, it's pretty bad. We're going to send you home. They sent me home with a bunch of antibiotics and pain medication. That was on a Thursday. And the antibiotics were really, really strong. And so they just kind of rip up your stomach anyway. So if you have like bad stomach issues and then you add medicine on top, it's kind of like, ooh, really bad. Mm-hmm. So finally, by Sunday night, I was telling Ken, these pills are ripping up my stomach. I can't take them anymore. So I stopped taking them. And then Monday morning, he had a doctor's appointment to go to. And I said to him, when you get back, I have to go back to the ER. I'm not feeling good. I can't take those pills. So in the short amount of time that he left and got back, by the time he got back, I was on the floor, vomiting uncontrollably, this neon green. I couldn't even speak. It was so violent. And so he got me back there and they got me in and they did another CAT scan and found that I had developed 2 huge abscesses in my colon to the point that nothing was going to get past them. I was either going to keep losing it this way, but nothing was going to travel down the Southern Highway.
What's an abscess?
Diverticulitis is little pockets in your intestines, and then food can get in those, and then it rots in there and it causes inflammation and all kinds of things. Well, I didn't have pockets anymore. I had jugs that were filling up with fluid, and like my body was going septic. If I hadn't gone back to the doctor that day, I would have been dead the next. My body was completely toxic. And so of course they come back this time and they said, okay, we're going to come get an ambulance and they're going to take you and you're probably going to have emergency surgery tonight. To which I'm like, what? Thursday you gave me antibiotics. Can we go with that option? How about if, and they're like, no, you have no options at this point. It took them a week to get me stabilized enough to have surgery because they were saying you're not going to survive it. So, they got me stabilized. And of course, they were saying the only way to do this is you're going to have half your colon removed and you're going to wake up with a colostomy. And that to me was a horrifying thought. I do remember someone one time when they knew that I had stomach issues, they said, you really want to watch that because you don't want to end up with a colostomy. And I remember them using the phrase, worse than death.
Oh. What is a colostomy?
So half of my colon has been removed. All right. So what they do is they separate a part of your intestine and they route it to come through a hole in your stomach. Rather than you don't go out the back door, now you have a front door. And you put an appliance on that. It's a pouch and it collects what collects. And so you basically go from having an innie to an outie. And you know how I feel about accessories, but this was a bag that really wasn't on my radar. I'm saying this as my journey and the lens I chose to look at this through. And it was a very definitive choice. Like I said, I had a week to know what was going to happen. And I had a really, really rough time with it. And again, you're one of my best friends. And it was something that I couldn't talk to very many people about at all because it was at that point in time embarrassing, There was a definite walk through fire component of it. The surgery itself is brutal. Everything was so badly damaged that they couldn't do anything laparoscopically. So in addition to having my butt moved to my belly, alongside of that was an 8-inch long, 4-inch deep scar from where they had to go in and remove. When I woke up from the surgery, the ostomy was like, okay, that's what I expected. What the hell is that? What is that? What is the Grand Canyon that's now residing on the other side of my belly? But that was a great distraction because it was painful. It took a lot to heal it. I had a home nurse that came and took care of me. It was very detailed, a shock to my body. I lost a lot of hair from the stress. I lost a ridiculous amount of weight. It's coming back now. But, I had to, for a while, my particular ostomy is different than other people's. A lot of people truly have an outie. Okay. It comes out like this, like a thumb. Okay. Mine does not. Mine's very flat to the surface.
What are we talking about? What's flat?
My butthole on my belly. Because they reroute it to come out your stomach.
So the spot, not your butthole anymore, because it's not on your butt.
No, but it's like your belly hole.
Okay.
It's round.
Okay.
It's kind of shocking because it's healthy tissue. So it's bright red, which, anytime we look at bright red, we're like, oh, infection and everything.
Yeah.
But but no, it's supposed to be that way. And it is something
forever.
I can choose to have a reversal. However, the research that I'm doing on the reversals are, even when people have a reversal they consider successful, we have a loss of rectal muscle. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so when people get reconnected, again, they're in the bathroom 10 to 20 times a day. That's what I got away from. You know, there were some dark days initially following the surgery. When I first got home, it's like, you know, when you have a baby and at the hospital, you're like, yeah, I got this. And then you go home and you have a screaming baby and it's like, I don't got this. That's what happened when I got home, because I wasn't really well versed in my type of ostomy, and then it was flat, and then I needed a different kind of appliance. But I had to go back to the hospital because things weren't going well here. And as I was headed back to the hospital, I had a very dark plan in my head of, if it was going to be the way it was currently going, I had a very dark plan B. And it wasn't good. And you know me, you know that I'm always happy and upbeat. I try to be anyway. So for me to be in that dark of a place was very unusual and scary for me. However, once I went back the second time, they're like, oh, no, we got something for this. We got you covered. I was feeling better enough by that point. And again, this was a very rough surgery. It was a 3-month recovery period. I just stopped losing my hair and it's month 6. I just now am able to have some stamina. Actually, at this point now, I'm feeling better than I have in probably 10 years. But the attitude was paramount to changing things. I had to stop looking at this as, oh my God, this is gross. I have a bag on my stomach that I defecate into, and look at it as, here's the mark of why I'm still alive. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you know this. It's an amazing surgery. I mean, whoever thought of this, I do not know. Napoleon, you know, all the pictures you see of him with his hand inside his jacket? Uh-huh. He had a colostomy, and his colostomy bag was a goat bladder. You can only imagine. I mean, these are tricky. They're tricky. So those pictures of him with his hand in there, it's like, oh yeah, I've always got my hand on mine. I totally get it now. It was having to look at it with the same way I look at the scars from my mom's radiation or chemo. Mm-hmm. Those are badges of honor. That was a fight. Mm-hmm. And this was a fight, but you don't get to wear that, you know, that great cancer courage badge. There's no super cool, hey, I have a colostomy pin. Poop's funny. There's the reason that there's a poop emoji on people's phones. It's funny. And once I started looking at it with my 10-year-old sense of humor, it was like, oh, yeah, it's kind of funny and it's kind of amazing. It's kind of brilliant that we have the technology that we have. It's amazing, the appliances that are out there. You know, you tend to think of people that get ostomies, specifically colostomies, and mostly it's cancer. But there's also injuries. Our vets that are coming back from war, when they get gut shot, they're coming home with these. Mm-hmm. And these aren't something that they can tell their buddy about. This is something that people have a lot of shame and embarrassment about. And you know me, I'm the glitter girl. Yeah. And if I can handle this, it's a silence issue. October 2nd, World Ostomy Day. Who knew there was one? Not me. There's an online community out there that is amazing, amazing. Because if there's ever a group of people that are out there that can't talk about something, that are finally like, oh my God, I can talk about this. And the other thing is surprising is how many people, like when I got mine, my mother-in-law was like, oh, my dad had that. And then Ken was like, oh, Leslie had that. And I know Leslie really well. And you sit there and say, how come I wouldn't know? Well, you wouldn't know.
Right.
You don't,
right.
People don't share it and people don't ask. So to be able to talk to someone else about it and what they went through, most of the people that I talk to, the majority of the people, whether it's online or the people that I know, are just really wanting that reversal surgery, and initially that's what I thought too. But in doing a lot of research, I mean, the top percentage for what they consider successful to where you're not worse off than you were with the pouch, that success rate is 61%. My sister's husband, his mother, who ironically was an ostomy nurse, she had to have this surgery twice. She had it done once, had it reversed, and then had to have it done again.
Oh, wow.
The one thing that I keep saying is I can do this once.
Yeah.
I don't care to go through it again. And in a lot of ways, compared to the way that I've been living for the last decade at least, it's so much more freeing. Half the time I didn't go places because I needed to stay so close to a bathroom.
Yeah.
And when I did go places, you would scout the bathrooms out and make sure that you didn't get too far from them.
Oh.
And it was this constant, you didn't realize you were doing it, you just did it.
I'm so proud of you for talking about this with me and your attitude. I mean, I have tears in my eyes because I'm just so proud of you. I just love you so much. You're just really somebody I admire so much.
Oh, sweetheart, that is a right back at you a million times over. What you're doing and what you have embarked on, making people feel seen, not necessarily for everything on the outside, but really making people embrace the beauty beneath. And I had to do that. You know how I am. You know how I am about my clothes and my hair and my glitter and my all that kind of stuff. And this was not something that fit that picture for me at all. But it's a reminder that when you can, choose the lens. I learned to separate the hospital from my home life and the hospital from my friends. I had so many people saying, I'll come see you. Sweet Mary wanted to come see me one day at the hospital. And I was so worried that this thing was going to start farting in front of her. And I was on a floor called the butts and guts floor. That's what they actually call it, butts and guts. I was laying there and it made this noise and it sounded like, and it sounded like, I don't know if you ever watched Mad TV with Stuart.
Mm-mm.
No, he's a grown adult child. You've got to watch it.
Okay.
Just pull it up on YouTube, Stuart, Mad TV. He's a grown man child that says, look what I can do. And that is what it sounded like to me. So I immediately named him Stuart, right? We had this online discussion, and I'm like, am I weird? Does anybody else name it? And they're like, and some guy's like, yeah, I named mine after Cynthia, my ex-wife, because she was a pain in my ass. You find, though, that the people that address it with some humor and some lightness, it makes it easier. One thing that was weird is they wouldn't let you go home unless there was someone else in the house that could put your appliance on.
Okay.
And thank God Brenna was still here because I'm like, I am not doing that to my partner. I am not doing that. Brenna, her, she's so sweet. She's like, Mom, I got this. And she was brilliant. She was wonderful. And she was so good when I was so sick and so weak and couldn't have done it on my own. And now I have this immense sense of pride that I can take care of this 100% completely on my own. I'm really good at it too, like really good at it. They have all these outpatient ostomy clinics you can go to because there's a lot of issues. There's skin breakdown and just a lot that goes on with it. There's math involved. And you know how I love math. Oh, God. But I feel a sense of pride. I feel a sense of pride that I did not let this define me. I am out more now than I used to be because I'm not dependent on being next to a bathroom. I feel better than I have in probably more like 15 years. The one thing when you're that sick and that close to tomorrow could be no dice, really makes you reevaluate everything. Your relationships, your work, because so much of this condition is stress-based.
That leads me to asking, what causes it? And is there anything you could have done to prevent it? How does it happen?
These little, they're called diverticuli, and they form in your intestine. And like I said, they're little pouches and stuff gets in there. So you can control it by eating stuff that can't get stuck in there. Seeds, nuts, popcorn.
So don't eat those.
Yes.
Okay, but I love popcorn. Do I have to, I should give up popcorn?
Well, no, because you don't have diverticulitis.
But what if I do and don't know? That's what I'm saying. So
yeah, it's diet based. It's seeds aren't good for you, small particles of food, things like that. That's the other thing. As long as I'm hooked up this way, I don't have to worry about ever getting it again. The minute I get reconnected, I do.
I see.
So the great thing about what I have now is I can eat anything I want. The worst thing that I thought was I'm not going to be able to eat beans, like chili, and I love beans. I remember I was just jonesing for chili. Terrible, terrible. And so I told Ken, I said, go buy me some Beano. We're really going to see if Beano works. And by the way, Beano really does work. It works great. Ate just a bowl of chili, a bowl. It should have put me out for days, but it did not. Anytime you don't have an appliance on, you're commando, so to speak. Anything could happen. Oh. And so you would always kind of time it to when you're not super active that way or whatever. But it was always just literally a crapshoot, a crapshoot. And one day Brenna was in here and she was helping me. And it was like,
when you have to go to the bathroom, you know, and you go, but this is not that.
No, you don't know.
Okay.
No, it's anytime. There's a difference between a pouch empty, which is really easy. The pouch has a flange at the bottom. You can empty it however many times a day you want to. And I'm really, for lack of a better term, anal.
And you've got all the good jokes. That's good.
I do. I got a million of them. Some people have baggage. I wear mine. I love it. But then you have to do what's called a pouch change, where you're taking the appliance off and putting a new one on.
Okay.
And you have to do that. Like I've gotten really, really, really good. And so I can make one last like a week. But when you change it, you got to take it off and you got to do some math and do some cutting and all this arranging. Like it takes me probably 10 minutes to prep for a change and 5 minutes to do it.
What are you mathematizing? That's not a word.
The funny thing about your stoma, so your little butthole thing, it can change in size. And that's what's so weird. It's not like it's a one size fits all. So you've got to measure it and calculate and then cut your pouch. The main thing about the pouch is, of course, being the receptacle, but it's also, it has to protect your skin underneath, because if any of that material gets on your skin, it eats it. And you know, Brenna was in here and she was helping me. And we took it off and I'm doing my thing because we got to the point where I did all the prep work and she did the math and the cutting. So she was doing the math and cutting and I was doing some prep work. And I am not kidding. Stuart let loose something that would make the fountains at the Bellagio, this fountain that would have made the Bellagio fountains applaud, because it was the most perfect arc and the distance. Britta's sitting there and both of us, like for a hot second, we're just like, the sheer, I mean, like I would have won a gold in the Olympics if it was a sport. I was so thoroughly impressed by what Stuart could do. You're at that moment where you're like, I'm not sure if I should laugh or cry, but I had no choice. I just started laughing. And I mean, I was laughing so hard, it was where I couldn't talk. And so Brenna didn't know if I was embarrassed and I was crying, but I was like, wow, that's impressive. Come on, you got to give him his credit. And it's so funny too, what you get used to. It's like, poop doesn't freak you out. It's just like when you have little kids, poop doesn't freak you out. It really doesn't, because it's right there. Yeah. And so it's kind of the same thing. You're just the baby. But the funny thing is, poop doesn't freak me out. Oatmeal dried on the side of a bowl throws me into a tailspin of grossness, yet poop is nothing. When I first came home, I had one really bad night. Oh boy, was it a bad night. Nothing would stay on, nothing. My nurse came at 1 a.m. and she should have had a superhero cape on, because she walked through the door and Bryn and I were we didn't know what to do. And my nurses were so emotionally available and wonderful and sweet, and had conversations literally with them that I've had with you and with Jana. Talked about these women becoming like your best friend in a matter of weeks. And yet they're people that you say goodbye to and never see again.
Yeah.
But they have all my respect in the world, because I had some epic breakdowns. But it was real cute. This one little nurse, she brought in, it was before I had the surgery, and she brought in the pouches to show me, she's like, hey, these are the different things and everything. And I remember saying to her, I was like, so are any of these by Kate Spade? And she looked at me, she goes, oh, sweetheart, you keep that sense of humor, because you're going to need it. The lack of humor to me was devastating. I kind of want to get into this to the point when you're saying that you're now really good at audio and editing and stuff. I kind of would like to do a podcast.
I think you should.
It's about this for ostomy patients. Like, there's these tips you can use to keep from it going off like it did, little Bellagio thing. Marshmallows. If you eat 2 jumbo marshmallows, you've got a good 30-minute window where nothing's going to go off. Oh. You don't know what you don't know. So when you get online and you see all these tips from people, and I love that. I think the part that makes me the saddest, though, is in any group, any forum that I'm in, is severe depression for people who do not have family. They are so isolated. They don't want to go out. They're scared. For people who aren't adjusting to their appliances, how to put your appliance on, because it affects a lot of things. If you don't put it on right, you can smell things. Yeah. If you don't put it on right, your skin underneath gets terrible. When your skin's hurting like that, it can be very painful. All the things that I was so fortunate to have, an ostomy nurse that spent 2 months with me daily and showing me how to do it, and me being receptive to the help. I asked her as an ostomy nurse what her biggest challenges were. And she said, older men. They won't let me help them because it's perceived as being embarrassing. However, think about it this way. You want someone with like working down in your butt, or like right there, your stomach's just right there. It's right there it's a happy place,
Right.
So she said that it's really difficult for men, really difficult. Sex and an ostomy. It's just so interesting to talk to people and how they get through the several issues that you face. I've got a little Ziploc bag and I put coffee beans in there, and then I just leave it open a little bit, and I kind of put it in there. So if at any point in time there's a little stank pouch going on, it smells like coffee beans.
Nice.
I think that the older we get, the more we realize how misdirected our focus can be sometimes. One night when I was having a big meltdown over this in the hospital, I was worried about my mom. Who's going to take care of my mom? Because they said, you're going to go home, and for 2 months, you can get up because we need you to walk around so you don't get blood clots, but you can't put a dish in the dishwasher, a load of laundry in. You're up, but you're not there. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, oh my God, the world's going to fall apart. And this little nurse took an hour. 3:00 in the morning was like my witching hour. It was time for my med change, and obviously I needed it. But she just sat there with me and she goes, you know how you got here, and it's by ignoring yourself because you're so hyper-focused on your job, your spouse, your kids, your mother. She said, that is why you are laying here in this bed.
Yeah.
And she said, right now, you have no choice but to focus on yourself. So I advise that's what you do. She said it in a really kind, gentle way. I mean, oh my gosh. Oh, I loved my nurses so much.
First, I want to say that I totally want to help you do a podcast for this topic because I truly think that you would be helping a lot of people and you're the perfect person to do it.
Oh,
you really are. And secondly, what kind of suggestions would you have for somebody? How do you remain positive? I mean, what is something that you could offer somebody else?
For me, it's a conscious choice every day. I'm one of those people that has a saying, look, pajamas all day. To the world, you may be one person. To one person, you may be the world. I've got sayings all over my house. It's ridiculous. I've got one right in front of me. We do grace, we do real. You know, I had to laugh when we moved. In the bigger house, it was more spread out, but now it's a little house. And everywhere you look, there's some kind of, you are my sunshine. In my bathroom, I have one sign and it says, today I will be as happy as a bird with a French fry. And I choose that every day. This wasn't an easy surgery. It wasn't a fun surgery, but I'm alive. And I can now travel on a plane and in a car and do all kinds of things I couldn't do before. But I was also raised by a woman who chose joy. So I come by it naturally. For every negative thing that happens in my day or in my life, I try to really sit there and find the positive. We lost a cat a week ago. My sweet, sweet boy, sweetest little kitty. We'd really fought to save him for like a year.
Yeah.
And in that moment where I was trying to find the joy in that, it was like, well, you're sad because you've had such an amazing pet. The joy lies in every day we had him. The more you kind of make that a habit in your life of choosing to find the joy, even when it's not readily available, it just kind of becomes a habit.
What is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? I always think of that line because no matter what struggles we have one wild and precious life and we can't waste it.
I love you so much, my friend.
I love you so much.
I've been in love with you, I think, since the first time I met you. You have been my ride or die. And I know that this year being COVID-y and everything else made me a bigger hermit than I already am. But I am coming out of that because I do believe that part of this second chance is to live my life.
Yeah.
My kids are gone now. It is now my time to harvest the things that make me happy. Okay, I love you.
I love you so much.
More than my luggage. So much more than my luggage. Luggage schmuggage.